Hey everyone, it's Jonathan, and welcome to Day 2 in this special mini-series with Trivial Theater as we talk about everything we saw at the Julien Dubuque International Film Festival. As I said in episode 1, Nicki reached out to me a couple weeks ago with free tickets to the film festival, so obviously I couldn't pass that up, and we spent 4 days watching movies and touring Dubuque and then coming home each night to talk about everything we saw. This was Day 2, we'll have 2 days left after today, so let's get into it. Okay, Day 2.
Day 2. Much like Day 1, but not at all like Day 1.
No, very different from Day 1.
Yes. For one thing, there was no shorts.
Sort of.
True. Also, we are both wearing pants, not shorts, because it was quite a chilly day.
Yeah, until the end, and I got hot, now I'm cold again.
Yeah, well, that does tend to happen, you know. Room full of people, and it's a relatively small space.
Yeah.
Plus a very warm projector.
Yeah.
But more on that later.
The first one we saw was Magnetosphere. That one was an independent film that actually had people I recognized in it. So that was a first.
Yeah.
These.
It was, I don't think she said how much it was made for, but like it had a almost movie-sized cast, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like proper movie. They went through like full-blown casting agents. So it's definitely independent. It's not what you would call like tiny budget independent. So there was clearly a good solid backing behind it. But I think this was only her second feature, and it was a well done piece, I thought.
Mm-hmm. It was.
I mean, any movie that features a kitchen toilet in the first like 20 minutes is okay with me.
The main person that most people would recognize was Colin Mockery, who was a plumber / exterminator who initially came to fix a kitchen toilet.
Yes.
Or take the kitchen toilet out of the kitchen and put it in a proper location.
Yeah.
But then he kept coming back and being weird because he's Colin Mockery.
Absolutely. But he was... I would almost... If you've ever seen Scrubs, he was like janitor. He was a very
Enigmatic.
Enigmatic, thank you. Brain's not working.
He was a little bit crazier than janitor.
He was a little crazier than janitor, but just like the random stuff that popped up and kind of the hidden bits... Like, he just kept pulling out random things, and they worked. Mm-hmm. Like, this movie had so many, it was genuinely funny. I mean, it was funny anyway.
Yeah.
But there was, you're sitting there and watching this movie about a 13-year-old coming of age, and then all of a sudden there's just all of these random funny moments that kind of slap you in the face in a very loving way. Mm-hmm. You get some of that in the trailer, but it balances drama and comedy pretty well, I thought.
It did. And at first I was feeling like this almost feels like a film made by a church, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. Definitely had bits of that.
But it kept getting better and better as it went on.
And it had... Some of the pieces were very separate. It was almost kind of episodic the way that it kind of went along, but everything did get tied up well at the end, I thought.
Yeah.
There was also a lot of music, which personally, it was to explain some of what she has. She's got,
synesthesia.
Yeah, so you can, hear color.
Yeah, synesthesia manifests itself in very different ways in different people. Mm-hmm. I'm more familiar with it because I think one of my cousins has a version of it where she sees letters as colors.
Really?
So, for example, she might see B is green and C is brown. But then there's other people who will say, no, those are not the correct colors that go with those letters. So it's very different for different people, but it's two senses firing at once.
Right.
So it's hallucination adjacent. It's not a full hallucination. I don't know all the aspects of it. I don't have it, but
right. It's
an interesting phenomenon that manifests itself in very different ways. And for the character in this movie, it was more visual than anything.
Very much.
She would see colors when things made noises, or not like an aura, but portrayed on screen as an aura around people. Mm-hmm. Different people had a different color to her.
And it wasn't really a positive or negative thing. Those were just the colors that they happened to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an interesting thing because it was kind of talking about, she was 13, so it was kind of coming of age. It was new school, crush on a guy that was in the play that her that her dad was running. It was talking about this synesthesia. There was a little bit about the Hale-Bopp comet, but I think it was just to kind of like ground it in time generally.
Yeah, I kind of expected the Hale-Bopp comet to be more of a thing, but it kind of wasn't.
Yeah.
It was there at the beginning and then you kind of forgot about it. Like maybe they mentioned it towards the end, but it wasn't a huge part of the movie like I expected it to be.
It could have been something that was left out, but I think because of the connection to her crush is probably why.
Yeah, probably.
That's my assumption, but it wasn't an overarching thing. She could have just had an interest in space.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Tara Strong shows up too.
Yeah, as the voice of a doll / her inner monologue / fears.
Yeah, all of her internal
insecurities.
All of her insecurities as, someone freshly 13. Well, not freshly, I guess she was a little bit older. Like, she was at the tail end of 13, but yeah, it was an interesting movie for sure. And it, again, built around music. I didn't think the music was as necessary, but I can see why it was there. It actually, and I don't know if you got the vibe, it gave me kind of like a better version of like a Disney movie from like the 2000s.
Kind of.
Like it kind of has that whimsy, but there's some good messages in there as well. Like it's much better done than a lot of like Disney shows from that time. Or Disney movies, like Disney Channel movies from that time.
Yeah.
But it kind of had that aspect.
It's kind of like a Christian / church movie mixed with a Disney Channel movie mixed with an independent film.
Right. And more quirky characters than you can shake a stick at.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure every single adult in this movie was just, I don't know, they were
weird in their own way.
Oh man, they were endearing. They weren't bad. And the little sister too.
Yes.
You get like and again, I think that's maybe where it came into play being more kind of Disney Channel movie. Like the adults are super quirky. The main character is kind of the long-suffering main character. And then like the little sister or little brother.
That is probably what gave it the Disney feel.
Yeah. And
Disney
then the
Channel feel specifically.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And little sister is like wise beyond her years. She just kind of rolls her eyes at the hysterics that her sister's in.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Highly recommend. It's called Magnetosphere, or Magnetosphere. Yeah. But yeah, worth checking out. I think it was going to be coming to Tubi and other streaming services.
So. I think she was working on that.
Yeah. I think they were going to find out in June or July of this year.
I should mention too, like Colin Mockery was not the only person that I recognized. Like there was a bunch of people I thought I recognized, but then I looked them up and I was like, maybe I don't. Like the one girl, Wendy, I could have sworn I knew her from somewhere and I didn't recognize anything on her IMDb. But Stephen He was the guy that the girl had a crush on. He also helped produce the film.
Oh, cool.
And then the thing that was the most shocking to me was the dad. Like through the whole movie, I was like, this dad seems so familiar. Mm-hmm. So I looked him up. Patrick McKenna, which the name did not immediately ring a bell. So I clicked on his name. And for anyone who grew up in like either Canada or Iowa, if you know the Red Green Show, he was the nephew Harold. Oh,
that's incredible. That's awesome that you figured that out.
I was shocked when I saw that. I was like, oh my word. Like that, because he does not look the same. Like he does not look at all like Harold from the Red Green Show. But I guess it was something in his eyes or something. I don't know. I just recognized something about him. I was like, oh my word.
Nice.
This guy that I grew up watching. He's now a lot older, of course, but
that does happen.
That was the most random person to see in a movie. I was not expecting that at all. Yeah, that was a fun movie. I kind of wish we'd ended on that one. I almost feel like I needed like a fun movie at the end.
Yeah, considering how the day ended. And not that the day ended badly, it just was... Yeah, it needed to end with that Porky short. That would have been the way to end that, but we will get to that.
Well, after that, we saw a movie called Séance.
Yes.
And that was one that I'm not a horror person, so that wouldn't have been like one of my choices, but I knew you wanted to see it. And then I saw the trailer and was like, okay, it's a period piece. Mm-hmm. This could be kind of fun. I actually think it might be my favorite thing I saw today.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely ranks up there. It's not specifically Hitchcockian. The director talked about it being kind of inspired by stuff like the 1960s Haunting, The Haunting of Hill House, which the the 90s equivalent is called The Haunting with Liam Neeson and other various people like Owen Wilson. But yeah, the 60s version of that, it's definitely psychological thriller. I would honestly kind of put it in a Hitchcockian, if you're not talking about Psycho, it definitely falls into that, like, that level of movie. Mm-hmm. There's, without giving too much away, there might be something paranormal going on, but there may not be something paranormal going on. It was really well put together.
Yeah, and well acted.
Oh, yeah. No, very much. The director was also, like, a supporting character. Mm-hmm. I think she also either produced it or wrote it. She said that she wasn't aiming to keep it period specific, but generally speaking, it takes place in the 1890s. They had 3 different homes that they used as sets for the kind of the house that they take part in, or that takes place in. I'm trying to think. It was made for about $1 million and shot in, I think, either 12 or 19 days.
Mm. Well, the locations is what made it feel so.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe higher budget than you would have expected.
I would agree, 100%.
Because, like, while I was watching, I was like, this does not feel like an indie film.
No.
And the bulk of that feeling was coming from, this is a great location.
It's excellent. And yeah, so they filmed in 3 different period houses, one of which was a museum. So all of the props and everything, or the furniture and all that stuff was definitely, relatively speaking, period accurate. There's a creepy doll involved because, as a horror movie, it's a requirement. But they went, I guess, to estate sales and found a whole bunch of very, very, very creepy, like, dolls. And that was probably, like, the generally scariest part.
Probably. And maybe that's why I didn't find the movie that scary. But no. I'm not a person who is afraid of dolls. Like, it's one of those things, like, I think they're interesting to look at. Mm-hmm. They don't freak me out at all. I don't understand people who are freaked out by dolls.
Yeah.
Even winding it up and making it say "Mama," that didn't freak me out. Like, there was not really anything that really scared me about this movie. Mm-hmm. And it had great characters, which is why I liked it so much.
And they definitely, like any good, like if you look at like The Walking Dead or things in that nature, you've got zombies, or in this case you have the possibility of paranormal stuff. But in the grand scheme, it's kind of, it sets the tone for what's going on, but the real piece that's interesting is the drama between the people, kind of the interpersonal play.
Yeah.
And this one, without giving away too much, you've got 2 very complicated relationship type couples.
Yeah.
And there's clearly things going on between various members of them. Mm-hmm. And the way that plays out is very interesting. And it's done in a very, without being silly, it takes place in a mature way.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, Housewives of Beverly Hills level drama. They handle it like adults. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a refreshing thing because so many movies do go off the deep end when it comes to that stuff. And
there was points where I thought maybe they were going in that direction, but they didn't.
Yeah, no, agreed. And even little things, talking of production, like the whole time that they're in this house, it's raining and thundering and such out, raining and lightning outside.
Yeah.
And that's a consistent thing that you keep up. Like, you go by a window, and they don't obviously have to mention it every time, but it's always there. Mm-hmm. And it just adds such atmosphere. It really pulls you into that world.
It does.
Yeah. I was impressed.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Like, I didn't 100% know, like, you can watch the trailer with any movie. You can watch the trailer and kind of have a general idea, but they managed to subvert my expectations. Mm-hmm. And I walked away really impressed.
Yeah. So the next one was...
The Last Hounds.
And you can probably give some backstory on this, because this was a local film.
Yeah, so Dubuque was, where the film fest takes place, was the first place that had a Greyhound dog track. And it opened in the 80s, and because of animal rights issues, which are a genuine thing that go on, several tracks across the United States have closed, and Dubuque's was one of the last ones to close. I think the guy said there was like 2 left in existence now. But
in the States.
In the States, yeah, not internationally. But the movie the documentary kind of follows the last month or so of the Dubuque Greyhound Park, and kind of the impact on the people here that worked there for well over 35 years. They go to where the National Museum for Greyhounds is down in Kansas, and they talk to breeders there. They kind of got a really well-versed look, and I'd say pretty balanced look at the whole situation.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, they kind of showed like the way that the dogs were cared for. And, I mean, they acknowledged the fact that there could be bad eggs, or there could be, there's always bad apples, and, acknowledge the things that have gone wrong. But this guy found out about it, I think, a few months before the park here in Dubuque closed down. And he did a great job of kind of covering everything. Mm-hmm. He talked to a journalist that started out as very skeptical about how greyhound racing goes, and she gave a very balanced look at it. Mm-hmm. It was a fascinating documentary.
Yeah, it was really well done.
Yeah.
Something that I didn't really know anything about. Like I know that greyhound racing exists, but it's not something that I'd ever been interested in to watch or know anything about. So it was really interesting to see what actually goes into that.
Oh yeah. Even just the raising of breeding of greyhounds generally, like this specific set of them are bred for speed. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about how, because you don't have that specific function for them anymore, or as much of a demand for them anymore, that specific breed of greyhound goes away, given a few generations, which I guess like everything else, I mean, that's kind of a foregone conclusion for anything if you take away what's the demand for it. But
yeah,
there were actually quite a few people in the crowd that were either interviewed or had some part in the Greyhound Park, and like the question and answer session, which they do for every director, went on quite a lot longer, and it was very interesting to see the back and forth.
Yeah, it was. That also helped the experience, because you get even more than in the documentary with the conversations between the director and the people who were in attendance.
Absolutely. And I think that he learned a lot just from other members of the community as well that he may not have otherwise been aware. Because I think he said he was from LA or someplace.
I think he said LA.
Yeah, definitely was not from Dubuque. But when he found out about what was going on, so the Dubuque Greyhound Park closed down in 2022, he reached out to the 4 remaining Greyhound parks, and Dubuque was the only one that would talk to him. So yeah, it hit close to home, and so every year with Julian Film Fest, they do like a People's Choice. And I feel like because this one, and we're filming this a day before, or we're talking about this a day before the actual awards, but I would imagine that if this isn't the winner for the People's Choice, it's going to be pretty close in there, just given the local appeal. Mm-hmm. So
I guess we could probably do an update tomorrow.
Yeah, well, probably Sunday would be the time to do that, because the award show is tomorrow night.
Oh, okay.
So we may. Well, I guess we probably could. Yeah, we'll get back to you on that. So, but no, absolutely. If you have any interest in the politics that go along, well, not even the politics, just the issues that kind of come with anything dealing with animal racing or monetization of animals, it's an interesting one. I would say it gives a pretty balanced look. Like, they acknowledge the faults, but they show the way that they're brought up. If you're willing to be open-minded, it's a really solid piece to watch.
Yeah, it was good.
Very thorough.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that was our last movie.
Yes.
For the day, but we still had 2 other shows that we went to.
Ha 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 ha! I feel bad for John. I dragged him into these. Though you weren't kicking and screaming, and I am very appreciative of that.
No, they were interesting. Like, maybe not from a fully entertainment perspective, like to go watch a movie. It wasn't that kind of an experience, but just from a historical perspective, both of them were very interesting. Oh, yeah.
But kind of, so there's 16 millimeter showings that they bring back a gentleman that is the curator of a 5,000 reel archive out in, I think, Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
And it came from another gentleman that collected all of these movies and commercials and documentaries and shorts and anything and everything that could be put to film. This collection includes those. Mm-hmm. And so every year he puts together a compilation reel. One is called the
Psychotronic After School Special.
Right. And then
if it's not that, it's something close to that. I don't
right,
remember
I think
for
it
sure.
is. I think it is Phosotronic After School Special. That's the consistent one. The other one is always kind of a crapshoot as to what it is. last year it was talking about psychedelic drugs and kind of like countercultural stuff, and this year it was Speakeasy, which was film reels and stories and whatnot from the 20s and 30s. But the after-school special, it had Schoolhouse Rock, one of those.
Which I think I recognized it. Like, it wasn't one that I, like, watched a lot. Like, Schoolhouse Rock was something that played on Saturday mornings.
Oh, yeah.
When I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So, like, that wasn't something that I, like, would always specifically watch, but it would be, like, in between the other things. Mm-hmm. So I don't ever remember, like, watching Schoolhouse Rock, but I saw enough of them that some of them stuck in my brain. Of course, the I'm Just a Bill. Yeah. And Conjunction Junction, of course. But this one was, I think, Interplanet Janet.
Yes.
And I was like, I feel like I recognize this. Like, it wasn't one that I must have seen a lot, because I didn't recognize everything, but, like, there was something about the tune and that character flying through space. I was like, I know I've seen this. Mm-hmm.
It was super cute, though.
Yeah.
Like, very desaturated, just because, obviously, of age, but super cute. There was a doodle short, or there was a Canadian film board movie that was talking about doodles. That was crazy.
It was odd. It was like set up like a documentary about trailing this guy through his life, but I think it was fictional.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was too.
Like, I'm not sure what the point of it was.
That's the thing.
I wasn't sure about a lot of these.
And some of that stuff, there really isn't a point. They're meant to entertain just as much as be educational. I mean, because the doodling thing is kind of just a thing that you do, and, you know, it's kind of highlighting it. There was a couple. There was one, what was it called? Make a Wish, but for some reason it was focused on all kinds of glass, but it was apparently a series. It went from glass blowing to kind of crystals to normal, like, glassware. It was such a strange, very, very 70s piece, I would say.
It was odd, but it was entertaining.
Oh, yeah, very much so. Then there was the eye one.
Yeah, there was a thing about making glass eyes, but they were also talking about, like, how the eye works.
Yeah.
It was another odd thing. That one was less entertaining and more just odd.
Yeah, they were making connections that I don't think anybody else would have made or would have wanted to make.
Yeah, I felt like that with a few of these.
They
were making some connection that the through line wasn't really there for me, but I was like, I guess I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. There was one called The Wizard of No, which was an anti-drug, specifically anti-cigarette kind of PSA thing, but it also talked about being anti-drug and anti-alcohol. Basically making good decisions by saying no to things that you don't believe in.
Yeah.
In that respect, so.
For the most part, that was my favorite. I thought their message was really well done.
It was, and it didn't... So many of those, both then and now, can be really pandery really quickly.
Yeah. Very preachy and beating you over the head with the message. Not that this one didn't do that, but I felt like it presented, I want to say more naturally, but like the guy was a wizard that came out of a tin can, so it's not exactly natural, but...
I think it was silly, but it was quirky in a good way for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, because it didn't talk down to its audience. It was more...
No, yeah.
I can't even say it was specifically on its level, but it did a better job than a lot of them. Mm-hmm. It kind of did what Schoolhouse Rock kind of did.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There was commercial breaks in there, too, so you saw a whole bunch of random commercials from that era. The Ugly Duckling / Unicorn one was...
That one was probably the most bizarre.
Oh, so strange. They kind of did so there was a horse involved in this that was supposed to become a unicorn, and they kind of did what they did with an old show called Mr. Ed, where they put peanut butter in, or it looked like they put peanut butter in the horse's mouth, and it was like not having it. It was not happy.
It was either that or the bit that it was wearing.
Yeah.
One of those things, maybe both, just made the horse like wiggle its lips a lot, and then they just voiced over it.
Yeah, but this little girl wears glasses without lenses for some reason.
I don't remember. Did it even say why she did that? I didn't understand why she was doing that. And
I don't either. And she was apparently quite clumsy. And for some reason, because she was so clumsy, no one believed she could ride a horse that's like attached to the little things that go in circles.
Yeah, it was an odd premise.
Yeah, so then there's a horse that's going out to a farm to become a workhorse, and she runs across the horse and they start arguing, and all of a sudden this gentleman with balloons shows up, and they go on this massive dance across New York.
It was so strange.
It was
entertaining, though.
It was very, he was, so charismatic and just such a fun...
He seemed familiar. I don't know who he was, but he seemed familiar to me. I don't know how to figure out who he was.
Yeah, I'm sure you could probably look it up. It's gotta be someplace. But yeah, and even after all of this building up and confidence building, she's still like, I can't do it! And finally
It went on for a long time, trying to get on the horse, but falling off the horse.
It did. And then...
finally climbing up a tree and dropping out of the tree onto the horse's back.
Right, because that makes more sense. That's the first thing you go to. That's like hearing hoofbeats and thinking unicorns instead of zebras. That's very strange. And then for some reason, there was a freeze frame on her smiling awkwardly at the camera for probably a good 7 or 8 minutes.
30 seconds at least. Far too long for a normal freeze frame.
Yeah, if you've ever seen the movie Pearl, it kind of does that, only it's not live action, it's just a still. But yeah, it's weird. That was fascinating. The next one was called Speakeasy, which again was bits and shorts and commercials and different things from the 20s and 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a piece on Hoover getting elected president and kind of the Democratic and Republican conventions.
And a bunch about the stock market that, well, not that the stock market makes sense to me anyway, but
Same.
Didn't really make sense to me, but...
Yeah, so they kind of give a little background on the stock market going up to the crash.
Yeah.
And then kind of after that, there was quite a few musical interludes, I guess.
And some cartoons.
Yep. There was a couple of ones that were done 100% with black casts, which were cool.
That was interesting. Mm-hmm. The one took a turn at the end, but
yeah, a very strange turn.
For most of that one, it almost felt like a glimpse into a thing that you wouldn't even know existed because it's not really portrayed in film a lot.
At least mainstream. If you a lot of underground cinema was where you found fully black casts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, this looked, and not to say that you can't have a professional production done by black actors and funded that way, but it had the look of something done by a studio. So
I'm sure it was because of the way it ended.
Yeah, no, that would make sense.
The way it kind of devolved into some racism, it was okay, somebody wanted this to be funny for a white audience.
Yeah, and it was such a strange turn. I don't know. It was just...
It was odd. For the most part, the piece was really interesting and well done with good performances. It just got weird at the end.
Yeah. Very, very strange. It's like someone flipped a switch and then they flipped it back. Mm-hmm. And yeah. There was also a couple of Looney Tunes shorts. There was a sing-along.
Oh, yeah.
They had songs from the late teens, early 20s. So they had I'm Looking Over a Four-Leaf Clover, I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles, and I don't remember what the third one was, but they were essentially they'd sing them on screen and then they'd have a sing-along.
Which I'm assuming was the point of them. They probably did a sing-along back in the day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you were in a theater watching, an afternoon of stuff, yeah, I could totally see that coming up on screen, and you go from, Looney Tunes to that, and then on to something else. They also had a Cab Calloway / Betty Boop piece, where they would have, like you said, rotoscoped Cab Calloway's dance moves onto a walrus.
The walrus was... Okay, this is... I don't know if this is a weird coincidence or not, but there's another short that I recently covered on Every Version Ever in the Cinderella series, where Cinderella is being chased by... I described them in the review as walrus demons because I didn't know how else to describe these creatures. But when that thing showed up, I was like, that's one of those walrus demons from that Cinderella short. It's what is this? I have no context for what this thing is, but it is weird that it showed up twice.
I would agree. Well, and even in the context of the Betty Boop short, her and Bimbo, which is the little dog that's with her, little dog guy that's with her, they go into a cave and they run across this walrus and he starts doing the Cab Calloway dance to Minnie the Mooch. And there's skeletons, and there's a lot of the imagery you get with the more well-known, I think it's, you said Snow White.
Snow White is the one that I've probably seen. It's the one that has the most of that weird stuff that has nothing to do with Snow White.
Right,
it's
right.
Like bizarre imagery.
Yeah, it's kind of Halloween level stuff, but it had all of these imagery pieces and ghosts and all that stuff, but it didn't really make sense as to why you would have a ghost walrus or a walrus demon in with all these other ghosts in this cave. And it doesn't really match. The only thing I could think would be like Alice in Wonderland, but there was no other imagery for Alice in Wonderland to give it that. And why would it be like the walrus, like with the walrus and the carpenter kind of a thing was what I was thinking.
Oh.
But that doesn't really make sense either because there's no other imagery that matches that. So I don't know where they pulled the walrus from.
But it's weird that the walrus showed up in something completely unrelated. I'm trying to remember if maybe Max Fleischer also did that Cinderella short. But the Cinderella short was an ad for a car.
Oh, was it?
Yes. It was a bizarre find I found on YouTube.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm trying to think what else was in there. Oh, there was the Porky Pig Dodo short.
Porky and Wacky Land.
Yeah.
That was the best part of the whole thing.
Oh, very much. I remember seeing that as a little kid, and like I never understood the dark Africa bit, which is, you could take it as a racist thing. I always took it as like the deepest parts where no one had been, and
I think that's probably what it was supposed to mean. That's how I interpreted it as a kid.
Yeah,
maybe it has
same.
racist undertones, but I always interpreted it as some place that nobody's ever been. You don't know what's there.
Right.
Which, like, he goes into past darkest Africa into a question mark, which is where Wacky Land is.
Right.
So I think that was probably what they were going for.
Yeah. Well, when you have 100 nuts and one squirrel, I mean, I wouldn't mind living there. It sounds like fun. The last piece, like they warned beforehand that specific piece of the hour and a half show would be very dark, but then it would end on kind of an interesting note. And it was all like Nazi blowing stuff up and tanks and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then it went to, I think, Budapest in the 60s. Like it looked like 50s people dressed up in the 50s or 60s. And there's a guy playing the sax, and then you hear marching in the distance. And then eventually the marching kind of over... Like,
it just kept getting louder and louder and louder to the point it feels oppressive. It's so loud in the room.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, between the marching and the sax, like it was like if you go to like low budget 60s movies and there's a saxophone involved in any kind of like the soundtrack. That's the kind of sax you had here, was kind of an apathetic sax, if there is such a thing. But yeah, it was a very strange end to it. Like it would have been better, I think, to end on Porky, but they're trying to get a point across, and they're talking about the 20s and 30s. So,
I think his main theme was like history repeating itself, like a lot of stuff happening back then is happening today.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, you're coming off of, early 19-teens. You had a pandemic, and then, stuff does repeat itself, and especially with big events like that. Because the two weren't dissimilar as far as the kind of pandemics that they had. So, given that, I mean, that's a whole other discussion for another day. But yeah, definitely, shorts were interesting. The pieces were wacky as hell. There was a few others, but I think we covered the main ones worth noting. So
yeah, my favorite was the Porky and Wacky Land, and the main thing that is most memorable is the end.
Yeah,
because it just kept. I was ready for it to be done. Like I was hoping the Porky and Wacky Land was the grand finale, but then I remembered, oh wait, he said it was going to get dark at the end. This isn't dark yet.
Yeah,
and then
definitely.
It got dark.
Yeah, well, and with the 20s and 30s, there's a lot of things you could talk about getting dark. But for dark stuff of the 20s and 30s on a world stage, it doesn't get much darker than the buildup of that specific group of people. So, but yeah, I think of the two, the after school special was a lot more.
It was a lot more fun.
Yeah, it had more to offer. And the music stuff, the Speakeasy special was quite a lot of music, which made sense given everything. Oh, that was one other piece that was in there. They had a restaurant, like a fancy restaurant set up, and everybody was on skates. Yeah,
that was interesting. I wondered if that was a thing they were doing for the short or if that was an actual place. Because I'd never seen something like that before.
It looked like a studio set up. My assumption is that's probably what it was. But
I kind of figured like it was set up like a musical, but a short.
Yeah, exactly. I did have to laugh because there was a couple of shots where you saw like high heels with like skates attached to them.
Oh, I missed that.
And the main guy who was the feature playing the piano also had skates on in addition to trying to play the piano. So
yeah.
So yeah, I think of the two, the after school special just had a more variety. And again, the music in the Speakeasy piece was great, but it kind of got to be a little long with how many of those you had. But the guys that put it together know their stuff. They know a good chunk of their audience. So yeah, anytime you have a sing along in a piece, you're never gonna go wrong in my book.
Yeah, all in all, it was a unique, interesting day.
Absolutely. So you mentioned Séance being your possible favorite. Does that hold true for you for the day?
I think so.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it was the strongest piece overall.
Like the last Hounds was very good too. But like if I'm thinking back as to what I would like want to rewatch first, probably Séance. I
agree. And I think the tone of any documentary that's going to talk about something that is sad, you know, you kind of do. You're glad that you watched it. It's important that it get out there and people see it because it is a thing that happened, and you know that stuff affecting relatively small towns and a whole industry of people is worth talking about.
Yeah.
Even if you don't agree with what it is, it's good to be able to see multiple sides, and it's just a well put together piece.
Yeah.
But yeah, of the stuff, I think, Séance was definitely hooked me more.
Yeah, me too.
So.
Okay, well, that was Friday. I don't know what day it is anymore.
No, it's okay. It's Friday. So yeah, it was a full day of stuff, and it's well past midnight. So technically, we're on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll be back later today, I guess, to talk about what we see after we wake up.
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. My link tree and all of our links will be in the description below. If you want more of my content, all my podcasts are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this show, check out one of the other podcasts or check out my Patreon for bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.